Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's devotion from the dock. We missed last week. We had a storm come through here. We had lost power for 4 or 5 days, lost the internet. Wasn't able to get that off to you, but we're back in this week, and hopefully every Wednesday, the devotion from the dock. This week, I wanted to use a thought that comes forward from Peter and Paul about being good citizens, because I think that there's a need of good citizenship in our country right now, and you are actually asked to be a good citizen as a disciple of Jesus. You just don't live in a vacuum. You're asked to be a disciple of Jesus. So I thought we'd look at a verse from Peter, but part of this is discussing a concept that I've heard a few of our parishioners use this phrase, a separation of church and state. And I just wanted to run with that a little bit. So the phrase comes from um, uh, James Madison and Thomas Jefferson were trying to champion the cause of some Baptist churches that states had a kind of an Episcopal state church, and it was getting imposed on them. And Jefferson writes a letter with this phrase of a wall of separation of church and state, thus sort of defending the churches from having the state impose anything on them. I'd say that we want to focus as Lutherans on the concept of not so much thinking of it as a separation, but as a distinction of church and state in how you make your choices. Because our sort of Lutheran Christian way of approaching the world is that you it's described that you live in two kingdoms, kind of two realms. You have this kind of kingdom here where you vote, you go to the voting booth, and you join political parties, and but you're a citizen, a full-fledged member of God's kingdom. You are under the king. He is your king in everything, and you pledge yourself to him. So as we make our choices, we're trying to honor the king, honor Christ, and serve our neighbor in the choices that we make. So there's my glasses. They're right there. Here's Peter's line from 1 Peter chapter 2. For this is the will of God. Live as people who are free, not using your freedom as a cover up for evil, but living as servants of God. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. Boy, you can get right on board with, honor others, love the brotherhood, fear God, honor the emperor. This was a bad government that they were, it was Christians are even being persecuted. They're not being treated well. But he's encouraging it to function within the system that's there that creates order, doesn't have anarchy, and will allow you to thrive as a believer and serve your neighbor. So part of our decisions that we make as good citizens is, as I'm voting, as I'm having conversations, my goal is to honor Christ, um, to the end that this choice that I make, this vote that I make, this conversation I'm in is going to honor and impact the world for Christ, and hopefully with a focus of serving my neighbor, not to the end of what's best for me and financially for me and my security and safety, and then if it happens to maybe help my neighbor. So there's our challenge when we think about living in two kingdoms, because we serve the king and he is the king. So as you wrap your mind around Paul's challenge, Peter's challenge to live as good citizens, remember who your king is. Um, Think of the concept of a wall of separation of church and state as something that was intended to create freedom for you to function with your faith, and consider it wrapped around this concept, a distinction of church and state as you're making your choices, always knowing that you're a member of the kingdom. That's a gift to you. Live it and enjoy it. This week's devotion from the doc. Amen.